There's a big careers day happening in the Bega Civic Centre today. Did you receive any good or bad career advice?
Oh, back when I received it, at school was virtually nothing. It was, for you, son, just take whatever you can find.
Get out there, you'll be right.
Exactly, and the advice I had from Wells, etc., was, it's not a bad job going there in the railways, and so I ended up joining the railways very briefly, and I found out that the commissioner passed on, and the deputy commissioner became the commissioner, and so forth down the line, and the sandwich boy, which is just about what I was, became the print boy, and I thought, no, it's not for me.
Well, you've obviously landed on your feet there. You're in a great spot at Marine Rescue in Eden. John, thanks for your time, and you have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, John. John at Marine Rescue there in Eden. You're listening to ABC Southeast Breakfast. Now, we've got a caller on the line. Claire of Bega. What was your career advice, Claire?
Oh, my career advice was very bad. I was working at TV News in Sydney, and I was getting bored with the job I was doing, so I went to the bosses and said I wanted to be a journalist, and they were completely horrified. They said, "You're far too nice a girl to be a journalist."
And then so you've proved them wrong. You said, "No, I'm not nice. I'm going to be a journalist."
Well, it took me 10 years to be a journalist after that, but there you go. They were just so against it because it wasn't the career for a woman.
Well, good on you for following your heart on that one, Claire. And did you have a long and enjoyable career as a journalist in the end?
50 years.
See, you did it. You proved them wrong. Congratulations, Claire. Sometimes we have to ignore advice and follow our hearts.
Right, okay.
Thank you, Claire. Thanks so much for the call, Claire of Bega there, ignoring her career advice. But that's not to say that we can't receive good career advice. Now, with the big Careers Day happening at the Bega Civic Centre today, over 800 young people expected to find their way there. We've got a careers advisor on the phone with us. Jenine Smith is the president of the New South Wales and ACT Careers Advisory Association. She joins us. G'day, Jenine.
Good morning, Paul. How are you?
I'm going really well. Thanks so much for taking the time to have a chat with us. Now, Jenine, when it comes to advising a young person, or no doubt indeed anyone on a career, what are the kind of steps that you take to find a career that works for someone?
Well, I suppose it's the first thing is it's not really referred to as career advice anymore.
Oh.
We use the term career development education now.
Oh, that sounds much more lofty.
Professional, doesn't
Exactly.
it? Yes, we are professionally qualified as career development practitioners as well. So, yes, we've become and that's a good thing because it has changed a lot. We do actually, rather than talking about jobs and sort of saying you should be doing this job, we're now talking about this process of educating students, particularly in schools, to understand where their skills and their strengths and their knowledge and interest lie and how they can connect that with, say, industry. And it's a process it's a different process for every child. Every child is different and every approach has to be different. So you might have a conversation with one about an interest they have, or you might have a more structured environment with another where you get them to, most of them do these psychometric tests that have been going on since the dawn of time. But that is just one tool. A conversation with a student brings out so much more, and that conversation might be in a formal office environment, or it might be in the playground when you're doing playground duty with them, or when you're taking them in a class, because sometimes you pick up things that they're interested in or they're looking at, and you can build a conversation from that. And then as a result of, like, in the recent years, particularly with the federal government's National Career Development Strategy and what the state government's doing as well, the focus is on bringing education and community and industry all together to have a conversation and to provide information to help students understand the opportunities that are out there. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the concept that, jobs are changing all the time.
Yes.
And because of that, you don't talk jobs, you talk industries. to try and help the students understand the opportunities that might be out there for them.
How has the nature of career development changed in recent decades with an evolving and constantly changing workforce?
Well, it's a case of the career development practitioner needs to be up to date, and as you can imagine, being based in schools, there is only so much we can gather ourselves, but we make sure we interact with industries, with employers, to find out what's going on so we can inform the students. And so it's a process of saying to students, look to what you can do in training beyond school, post-school training or learning, and if that's a passion for you, go with it. And from there, at that level, you will probably find the opportunities that exist that you can go into that are something that you're interested in. The crucial thing is to try and help students understand that connecting with employment that they're interested in will make them more, they will enjoy the experience more of the work environment. The same as you just had I was just listening to the last two speakers saying how one realised that what he was doing was not what he wanted to do, and he went on to do more successful. The other, she was saying how she persevered and became the journalist. I'm guessing a time when, yes, women were not seen to be doing that sort of thing, but has enjoyed it for a very long career. And at school, it's about a conversation. We start a conversation and we expose them. Like what's going on today in Bega. It's what I describe the Career Expos as a window shopping opportunity for students to start gathering information and then coming back and having a conversation and exploring opportunity as well. And conversations with families as well. That's just as helpful in what they sort of can work out and decide what they want to do.
Are young people coming to you with pretty strong ideas of what careers and industries they'd like to be involved in? Or do you find that, in particular on the back of a pandemic, that people are quite uncertain about exactly what they want to do? 15, 16-year-olds, they're in the minority, I would say, those that definitely know what they want to do. The others are just sort of like, I got no idea, or they don't want to sort of bring up an idea, but you do draw it out of them and you have a conversation with them to get ideas going. And then the next step is getting them into work experience. And that I find with like the year 10s, when you get them out to work experience, it gives them an understanding, whether they go and do it because they think they want to do it and find it's just not what they want to do. That is just as good as where they go into the workforce and find the opportunity and see that it is they want to follow. So, for example, particularly with I don't know if you're aware of school-based apprenticeships and traineeships. If students want to do those in 11 and 12, we actually encourage them to do the work experience in the trade area that they want to do their school-based apprenticeship in, so that they know that that is actually what they want to do. And it's good because it means that they understand then what it is that is it going to work for them or is it not going to work for them? And do you think that there's, in the current landscape of the workforce, that there are more pathways available to young people to explore industries that they may find an interest in? Absolutely.
There is just so much out there that is not talked about often. And what I always try to do is find information for students to understand the less talked about jobs in an industry, because people know what an accountant does as a descriptor. People know what a car mechanic does. People know what an engineer does. But there are so many industry subsections now, and so many industries have shortages in these lesser-known areas. It's an opportunity for students to take on an experience that can help them for long-term employment.
And what about the nature of apprenticeships? Are there still, is that something that's still prominent amongst work pathways, or are you finding that apprenticeships are harder to get and less available?
Oh, it's the exact opposite. I don't know if you're aware, but the state government has just announced a whole series of fee-free opportunities for apprenticeships across the state. The growth in interest in apprenticeships has been very strong. The demand by employers for apprentices is growing as well. And people, I think, are recognising that you don't have to tie yourself to one area of occupation to ensure a job. As in, you don't have to just go to university, you don't have to just go to apprentice, to a trade or to vocational education. Students are open to looking at the full range of opportunities and seeing where those pathways can lead, say, from vocational education, maybe even through to university education, or university education and coming back and doing vocational education. But the apprenticeships themselves, the numbers are showing that they are growing, and the completion rates, I mean, the governments and the likes of TAFE, they're looking at and the group training organisations that also oversee the apprenticeships, they're all working to ensure that those who do take up apprenticeships complete them as well, and that's probably the biggest thing that's changing, is that the completion rates are gradually improving.
And do you feel like that there is an increased need for students and for young people to be prepared for work across multiple industries and in multiple roles throughout the courses of their career? And if that's the case, how do we prepare them for that?
So it's the trend at the moment, which is a good thing, is that the feedback employers giving is that they can train people in their industry, in their business, but what students need to have is what's called the transferable skills. Some people call them employability skills. So it's those generic skills where you can know how to work and operate in a business, communication skills, digital skills, those sort of things. And I suppose it's what we like to do is be able to start having a conversation about that sort of thing from, say, year 7, because everyone needs their numeracy, their literacy, and their digital skills. But students also need to be understanding the impact that not keeping up with their numeracy or their literacy can have on what choices they have as they go towards the end of school. So, for example, previously, I've had students who've said, I don't have to worry about maths, I'm going to do an apprenticeship. And then you give them the aptitude test, and it's this sort of like, moment when they realise, like in electrical apprenticeship, you have to know your circuitry, you have to know all your maths, but you also need your literacy there. And for an electrical apprenticeship, if you don't pass their aptitude test, you don't get the apprenticeship. And that's where I've had a few experiences with students that have been interested, and they think, they'll just cruise into this job, it'll be easy. And it's sort of like, okay, all right, I better get moving, get my act together and sort of get my knowledge going.
So there is that still an importance of developing those fundamental educational skills, but then
Absolutely.
taking them and then using them to interact with and navigate a dynamic workforce.
Definitely, and it's a case, I think, this is my own personal view, that numeracy, literacy and digital literacy are absolutely essential to get yourself into the workforce, but you still have to have post-school training to be able to move on to viable employment. And the reality is, and governments are talking about this as much as we are in an age of lifelong learning. Nothing stays still, and you've got to do this learning across the spectrum. And the good thing is that governments have got on board with this, with the National Careers Institute at the federal government level and at the state government level, what's called Careers New South Wales, where they're providing opportunities for people who are beyond the school age and are looking for career change or, circumstances where employment opportunities change. And rural regions, I'm sure, understand this completely, where you have a major industry that provides a lot of employment, and that has to change. And then people have to change where their expertise is. But often they can take their knowledge and skills to a different employer or a different industry and still advance and gain employment. Now,
Jenine, if there was someone, a young person in particular, listening that was on their way to the Careers Day at the Bega Civic Centre, what advice would you give to them ahead of their experience?
Well, my advice to them would be you go to these expos with the thought process in mind, but you talk to employers, you talk to vocational and university educators, and you gather as much information as you can. With education institutions, a couple of questions I would be asking is, what is this course about? Do you do work placement or internships as part of this course? And where have your graduates got work from? So that sort of basically gives you an idea of the employment opportunities, the course content as to whether you're going to be interested in it, and on-the-job training is what I call it. And on-the-job training is becoming much more important at both university level and vocational level. It gives connections to industry, and it also gives you experience in industry that helps you build your resume while you're still studying.
Well, fantastic advice, Jenine, and we thank you for your time on a Friday. Very informative, and all the best to those students out there heading off to Careers Day today.
And can I just give a quick shout out to all the careers advisors who are in the southeast east region, because they've probably done a really good job again of getting this together for the students. And a big hi to Charmaine, Michelle, Kimberly and Jennifer just down there as well.
We love a shout out, Jenine. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your Friday.
Thanks. Lovely to talk to you, Paul. Take care.
Thank you. Jenine Smith, Careers Advisor and President of the New South Wales and ACT Careers Advisors Association. You're listening to ABC Southeast Breakfast.